I was going to be preaching about Daniel Daniel, and my point was that to show that the point that our God is the only true God that's real. Because in the story, Daniel prays and, well, something happens that is like a miracle that can only be done by God. So please turn to Daniel chapter 6.
Oh, Mama. Oh, Mama. Oh, Mama.
Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces, and he appointed a high officer to rule over each province. The king also chose Daniel and 2 other administrators to supervise high officers and to protect their king's interests. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all the other administrators and high officers because of Daniel's great ability. The king made plans to place him over the entire empire. Then the other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. Later, I'm going to talk about how that not everybody is always completely faithful, responsible, and completely trustworthy. And to be honest, I'm not always completely responsible for some things. That's why I want to start sharing that. Obviously, since not everybody is perfect, this is a way of showing that Daniel has been praying to God for help on things. So, Daniel chapter 6, verse 5. So they concluded, our only chance of finding for grounds for accusing Daniel will be on connection with rules of his religion. So the administrator and high officers went to the king and said, long live King Darius. We are all in agreement, we administrators, officials, high officers, and advisors and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced to give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who hurts anyone, divine or human, except you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. I'm going to stop there because it's kind of like bribing someone, because they're just jealous that King Darius likes Daniel more than, did I say David? Daniel is better than them with God's help because of his praying and all doing, and we're going to talk about that again later. But, so, something I want to talk about is that it's kind of like cheating. It's kind of like cheating whenever they told Darius that we all in agreement want Daniel, want you to sign a law that says nobody can pray to anybody for the next 30 days but you. And that's kind of like cheating because, he's always good, but all those guys are always praying to King Darius. So it's cheating because, you're not supposed to pray to anyone but God. Chapter 6, verse 8. And now your majesty issued and signed this law so it cannot be changed, an official law of Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. So King Darius signed the law. But when Daniel had learned the law had been signed, he went home and kneeled down as his usual in upstairs room, with its windows open toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he always had done, giving thanks to God. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about up here, where it says he was faithful, always responsible, and trustworthy, because he probably was not always like that until he started praying to God all the time. So he's kind of made praying a habit. There was a story about a kid who he's always busy, and he's kind of like Daniel. He's responsible, he's trustworthy, and he's faithful. But he never could figure out when and where to put prayer into his schedule for the day. But so the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. So they went straight to King Darius and reminded him about his law. Did you not sign a law that for the next 30 days any person impressed at anyone, divine or human, except you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied. That decision stands as an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. Then they told the king, the man Daniel, one of the captives from Judah, is ignoring the law, and he still prays to his God 3 times a day. Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of his predicament. See, Daniel was in another way, King Darius' favorite. So, in the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, you know that according to the law of the Medes and Persians, no law that the king signed can be changed. So at last, King Daniel was arrested. The king said to him, May your God who served you faithfully rescue you. And that's another reason why he's faithful, because Daniel probably, we don't know this, but I am pretty sure that Daniel has faith in God, that God will help him as he gets thrown into the lion's den. Chapter 6:17. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and the seals of his nobles, so that no one could rescue Daniel. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting. And he refused his usual entertainment and couldn't sleep at all that night. Well, that's guilt. How some of us all sometimes, I'm not talking about adults, but maybe one of the adults in here who are kids, you know how sometimes someone would lie, and you always just feel this guilt inside of you that makes you just want to spit it out, but you don't want to get in trouble. Well, I've done that before, and it made me feel so much better, and I don't lie a lot anymore at all, and I barely lie at all. So I'm just saying it works. So, very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish, Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom served you so faithfully, able to rescue you from the lions? Daniel answered, Long live the king. My God has sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me. For I have been innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty. Well, that was part of, I kind of cut this into parts that I did, and this is part 3, God's miracle. Daniel was put into the den for praying to the true God. Most people would probably say, since they're lions, yeah, he'll probably get eaten, but not God. Since Daniel was innocent in his eyes, but Daniel was there with starving lions all night, and he came out without one scratch. So, and it's an exclamation point. That means that it is very important. Let's make a praying habit if you haven't already. So, I think we're at chapter 6 of Daniel, verse 23. The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him. For he had trusted in his God. Then the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had thrown them into the den of lions, along with their wives and children. I kind of have a problem with that. What is their wives and children? Because, I mean, they didn't have anything to do with that. The lions leaped and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. Then King Darius sent a message to people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that no one throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he will endure forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius, the reign of Cyrus the Persian. There's one more thing I want to say. David didn't just make praying a habit, but he also made having trust in God a habit too. So I would say that we should make ourselves like Daniel and always have faith in God and trust in God.